I think he's only going to touch it on the side that yes, it's some good prospect for Namibia. Just to say yes, this is in terms of long term, it put us in the map. It improved that what we might do in the future or what might of reserve we might have in the future. But if we look in the short term and the medium term, there is nothing that Discovery is doing for Namibia. It's just improving the price of the company only. So as much as he wants to talk about it, he's just going to talk about it as a way to say, yes, we found oil. But in terms of the impact, in terms of improvement or addition to the economy, there is literally nothing that I foresaw, or maybe I can be corrected on that. He will talk about it definitely just because we found something, not because there is something significant which is going to add into the Namibian economy.
That's right, Gabriel. At the 26th Conference of the Parties, COP26, gathering in November 2021, 13 national governments, and 11 automakers. We're talking about Ford, Mercedes-Benz, General Motors, and Volvo, amongst others, pledged to completely phase out the manufacturing and selling of petrol and diesel-powered vehicles by 2035 in leading markets in 2040 right across the world. Are we discovering our oil at the wrong time?
You know, it's a beautiful time to be alive. I can't really write it off because now a lot of African countries, and especially the African, I think is the Energy Summit or Energy Committee that is really fighting to say, let us find a balance. You can't tell Namibia, you can't tell Angola to give up their carbon emitting reserves just because we have industrialized. You can't. So as much as I foresee that, yes, we might say we have discovered a wrong time because certain cars are being phased off. We are here producing our own PJs. South Africa is producing their own cars. So maybe it also provide an opportunity for us to industrialize and to use our carbon emitting reserve until we transition. So it's just up to Namibia. It's just up to Namibia to say we are producing our own PJs or our own cars. We can use the fuel that we are discovering and the rest of the African, because not only Namibia, a lot of African countries are sitting in a lot of reserve. So we can't really say it's wrong time if Africa decided to say, give us time to transition and to be at the level where you are before we give up our carbon emitting utilization of these things.
That's right. At the same time, President Dr. Hage Geingob joined President Emmanuel Macron of France, the Prime Minister of Norway, and the President of Seychelles to reaffirm Namibia's commitment to a sustainable ocean economy. And he is in Brest, according to the information coming from the Namibian presidency. Is the president going to be on the offensive to try to woo investors? And are we ready for investments right here in the country? Is the environment really conducive?
Yeah, the environment has been very quite, I can say, toxic, because I'm speaking from the small enterprises side of things. It has been quite toxic because they do not have access to State House to push through their deals or their things to be expedited. So it has been really, really quite toxic. But there are some improvements that are happening. We are now having an investment board. We are now having, we are looking at our investment bill. We are looking at our SME policy. We are looking at our sustainable special economic zone. If all these three acts that we are amending or that we are looking at, if we happen to implement them to the letter, I think things are going to be beautiful. But if this investment policy and NIAB and the SME policy and the special economic zone policies do not get to be implemented at the local, at the regional level, at the local authority level, nothing is going to change. And it's actually going to dampen in the image of the investment they are doing around the world. But if at the ground level, these policies and this intervention are not ironed out, that are impeding and the process to solve it, we are not going to do anything. So for now, we are in a transition, Kelvin. We're in a transition, and if the transition happens very well, it gets implemented very well, then I think we are ready for investors, whether locally or from abroad.
And lastly, monetary policy, to what extent has it slowed down the rate at which our economy has been sliding?
Can you just repeat the question?
The question is, to what extent has monetary policy itself, the interventions, the decisions of the Bank of Namibia, to what extent really have they managed to keep the ship of the economy at bay?
Yeah. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but for a lot of households that were indebted or that were paying off their loans. Low interest rate really assist them, and that is one of the big things that I can say that the governor did something good. But on the other side is that the money or capital was so cheap in our economy, but the business people were not interested to borrow because the outlook was missing. And unfortunately, that's not now that the Gawahaba's job to improve the outlook of the economy. For him just to make capital cheaper, then other things now, other policies or other players in government are the ones who are supposed to make the environment so conducive so business operating go borrow. So unfortunately, his effort or the Bank of Namibia effort to keep money cheap was not rewarded, was not met halfway by other policies from government, ministries, and agencies to foster economic, whether consumption or production. But they did it to a certain level, making credit cheaper and making it so possible for most of our households that are indebted to be able to make their monthly payment, because it was even supplemented by certain relief and other things that were extended to the household.
That's
so
right.
They did really hold them afloat there.
That's right. That is a Gabriel there. And of course, he does the business segment right here on the station, business writer as well. Gabriel, thank you so much. We now wait for this monetary policy announcement to come out tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the Bank of Namibia. See you there.
All right.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Good morning. You are listening to the Early Morning Scoop, and thank you so much for coming through. We take you now into the space and realm of politics right here in Namibia. The race for critical positions within the SWAPO Party Women's Council is now on with earnest. Of course, we have seen a campaign material really doing the rounds on social media and various platforms, various candidates really marketing themselves ahead of the critical contest there. With me on the line is the former mayor for the city of Windhoek, long-time SWAPO Party member and stalwart, that is Francina Ndatelela Kahungu, who's contesting for the position of secretary for the SWAPO Party Women's Council. And she comes from a point where she was the deputy secretary within the council there. We want to try to get an understanding of why did she choose to run for this particular position. Good morning, Mayor Kahungu, and thank you so much for coming to Eagle FM.
Good morning, Kelvin, and good morning to listeners. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. The race for positions within the Women's Council and the SWAPO Party is now on. What makes you a better candidate?
The experience which I acquired while serving as an assistant secretary for finance and project management, and the experience acquired while serving as a deputy secretary for SWAPO Party Women's Council, and take note, I was just not a deputy but a capable deputy secretary, informed me that I can equally serve as a secretary for SWAPO Party Women's Council.
That's right, and the Women's Council is quite central, especially when it concerns issues to do with gender. Namibia continues to limp with the problem of gender-based violence. And how do you intend to use this position to fight the wrath of gender-based violence? That's the first question. Question B is, can you say that the Women's Council within the SWAPO Party has really been vocal when it comes to taking a stance against this scourge?
Thank you very much. My point is that I have to intensify an evidence-based fight against gender-based violence. Evidence-based, I'm referring to, we really need to be out there and find out and dig. If it requires us to work with Namibia Correction Service, that will be, so that we find out what is really the cause of gender-based violence. And Women's Council, yes, It has been part of the program for SWAPO Party Women's Council, but more needs to be done.
All right, you're talking about trying to figure out what is the cause for gender-based violence. One would say about 33, 32 years down the line, we should all know what's causing gender-based violence. And have you really been there when it comes to the demonstrations, when it comes to the advocacy, the panel conversation on how best we can beat back this demon?
Yes, Kelvin, we are aware, but take note. The causes of gender-based violence of yesterday are not the same of today. That is why, as the world is evolving, you need also to find out the various situations which might put people and influence them to do things such as gender-based violence. I am not saying that we have not done anything, but I'm saying with time, as situations differ and change, we also need to change the way we tackle this issue.
At the same time, last year, Mekahungu, the Women's Council came out and called vehemently for the deportation of a Chinese national that was accused of stripping a Namibian employee. What will be your policy position on the influx of Chinese businesses mired in bad labor practices in Namibia?
Thank you very much. Be mindful of the fact that SWAPO Party Women's Council is a wing of SWAPO Party. And the government which is ruling now Namibia is a SWAPO-led government. Of course, we are going to follow the rules and agreements signed by the government. But anyway, where there is the need to improve the agreement, we have to do so. I am sure that the Chinese national who did what he did not do so according to the agreement between the Republic of China and this of Namibia. No, he did it in his own capacity as a person. Of course, SWAPO Party Women's Council will never tolerate anything which is done against women. Not only that of SWAPO Party members, but women in general.
That's right. You yourself were there when the SWAPO Party was driven out of the cities in the past presidential elections. What are your thoughts on the state of the SWAPO Party at this particular point? Is everything okay in the SWAPO House?
I do not really know how to tell people as we are speaking. SWAPO Party has 5 representatives. So we are the majority if you are given an individual political party. We are 5. The second one to come is having 4. So there we are in majority. Let us not be misled by coalition, but majority-wise SWAPO Party is the one with majority representatives. What is that SWAPO representatives are doing? We are doing very well. We are doing very well because the good part, the council resolution are taken by all councillors. It does not differentiate who is, but what we are saying is, or what is happening is resolution taken by council, meaning all 15 councillors. What I observe is SWAPO Party councillors doing very well by following the implementation of council resolution because their main aim is to serve residents of Windhoek.
Yes, while you retain your majority in parliament, still, we cannot run away from the fact that the party has been driven away from major towns right here in the city of Windhoek. Does that not concern you as you vie for this position?
No, not at all. SWAPO Party is not driven away. But me being in this position, I would also like to add more of activities which are going to add to the visibility and to good part of activities done by SWAPO Party. That is one of the things which I want to achieve, that women are given their responsibilities, women are given their rightful places in decision-making places. As one of my objectives is to improve the way women are doing business, is to promote sound financial management across the rank and file of SWAPO Party, and also to create opportunities for not only SWAPO Party Women's Council, but for women, specifically those who are dealing with small and medium enterprises.
That's all right. So how do you respond to views that you may likely be using this position that you're vying for to advance your political career with the aim of being in government one day?
whoever is saying this, he does not know how Namibian system works. Namibia is divided into various structures. Or maybe let me tell you about the government, how it works. We have a central government, we have a regional government, and we have local authority government or local governance. So already I am serving, or I served at a local governance. So there will be no way for me to be having or want to have this position to advance my political career. No. And it is also good. It is also good that be in a position aiming to elevate yourself and to elevate others too. If you are just in a position which is not allowing growth, then you are not a leader.
That's right. When are the elections? And can you say that it's all systems go? Is the campaign trail smooth for you and quite balanced, as you said?
The Congress is scheduled to take place from the 24th up to the 26th of February 2022. And it is scheduled to be done through virtual facilities.
That's right. That is Francina Andatelela Kahungu. She is contesting for the position of Secretary for the SWAPO Party Women's Council. And these are her views concerning why she chose to run. May Kahungu, thank you so much for the time that you gave us. We hope to get in touch with you next time.
Thank you very much, Eagle, FM, and Kelvin. Thank you for the opportunity.
That's right. All right, this is what is coming through there. A very interesting and fully packed year for the ruling SWAPO Party 2022. The elections for critical positions within the SWAPO Party Women's Council, which is a chapter of the SWAPO Party itself. And of course, in 2022, we do expect the pot, which is the Congress of the SWAPO Party that is supposed to put forward a slate that is supposed to be contesting for the presidential elections. A very interesting occurrence indeed. And this is what is coming through. Give us a call. What do you think about this particular conversation we had with the former mayor for the seat of Windhoek and SWAPO Party stalwart, Francina Kahungu?
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
My name is Kelvin, and welcome to the Early Morning Scoop.
But just because a judge finds a person guilty does not mean a person is guilty. Judges have found people guilty and they have won on appeal.
He feels bad because of his minister and his reverse parking is bad.
Okay, so the city of Windhoek wants to rename Bismarck Street.
No, I don't think it's okay. It should just remain this.
Is it the only street that is named after a colonizer, though?
We are talking about young people, why they are not interested to vote.
I really don't think the government has put us its interest, because at least they should come up with awareness why we should vote and things like that.
This is the Early Morning Scoop on Eagle FM.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Exactly 27 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock, the time right here on the station. We caught up yesterday with the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Mr. Derek Clausen, to talk about the marine life that washed ashore at Walvis Bay and the concern that's coming through as a result of some of the residents there that have picked up the fish and are consuming it. Let's get right into the conversation we had with him. What caused the washing ashore of the marine life at Walvis Bay over the weekend? And this is what we're getting there. Dozens of marine life washed ashore over the weekend, and the residents of Walvis Bay waking up to a lot of marine creatures clustered right across the stretch line of the beach there. And immediately experts went to the ground on a ground zero to try to ascertain what could have caused the deaths there. And of course, we were getting information over the weekend that the experts were carrying out investigations to try to get to the bottom of that. But at the same time, the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources has now issued a statement in connection with what to do with these particular fish that have washed ashore. We had a conversation with the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Mr. Derek Clausen himself. Take a listen to what he had to say.
On Sunday, 13 February 22, many dead or dying mallets were observed in the Walvis Bay Lagoon area. Satellite images show algal blooms along the central Namibian coast and water temperatures that rises around 25 degrees Celsius, as is usual for this time of the year, because of weakened southwesterly winds and consequently no active upswelling taking place, leading to local warming of the water as well as the intrusion of warm oceanic water into the coastal areas, which are favorable for algal blooms. The scientific name is phytoplankton. Algal blooms can be toxic, but even non-toxic species strip the water column of oxygen when decaying and can lead to low oxygen events that are sometimes exaggerated by sulfur eruptions. Low oxygen conditions are presumed to have trapped the fish in the lagoon and along the coast, causing them to die and wash out when the water level drops during the low tide. So basically, they get trapped also.
Right.
Furthermore, for the past few days, a high number of jellyfish were observed in the Swakopmund and Mola and on the beaches between Swakopmund and Walvis Bay. The warm oceanic water presently along the central coast transports many jellyfish, which are then trapped in bays like the Mole or wash up on the beaches. Now, when humans get in touch with these tentacles of these live jellyfish while swimming, the jellyfish inflicts a painful sting on the skin, which can be very sore, but it is not harmful. Rubbing the area will increase and prolong the burning sensation and should be avoided. So it means you must not rub when they sting you.
Right.
Now, the ministry is currently busy conducting water analysis to identify the phytoplankton species present in the Walvis Bay Lagoon and harbour areas and determine whether they are toxic or not. The public is therefore cautioned against consuming the washout mallets until the cause of death is established. So what I can say here from my side also is that when this fish was on shore, we are cautioning people not to eat it, because we don't know how harmful it can be, because we are still busy with investigations. But overall, this is also called, we used to call also this phenomenon in Walvis Bay, when people are speaking, they say it's the red tide, which means that fish is washing on shore. And when this red tide usually is also coming in, that is when the crayfish is walking out of the sea and those type of things.
Right.
So in short, this is all I can report for now. We are still busy with investigations, and whenever we have any more results, we will let the media know further in the community at large.
That's right, Honorable. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Just before you go, ironically, it's happening at a time when President Hage Geingob is at Brest, in the midst of this ocean economy kind of summit. I just wanted to find out whether you are quite concerned about any commercial level economic implications and impact of this particular disaster, understanding that fish is actually the mainstay as far as our exports are concerned?
Are you talking about this washout?
Yes.
This is just a phenomenon that is happening. It's happening every few years or annually or so on. Because as you can remember, last year, we also had a washout of mallets, And the case of last year, they come when the tide is high, then they come in and then you get like pools, And when the tides get lower, they sometimes get trapped, Schools of fish get trapped, So it is just a phenomenon that happens, and it's not something that can be alarmed about.
That's right. Honorable Minister, thank you so much. I do appreciate really for this update.
Thank you so much for having me on the program. Thank you very much.
That's right. All right. That's what we're getting as far as this is concerned. And of course, just a reminder there, in 2019, at Walvis Bay, the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources said thousands of horse mackerel trapped in a rocky reef at Mile 8 were not alarming, but a common phenomenon known as a walkout. The Ministry of Fisheries issued a statement by that time in response to concerns raised by coastal residents about, especially after a video clip was circulated on social networks of horse mackerel that had been washed ashore and were being collected in large numbers at the shoreline at Mile 8. A statement issued by the Public Relations Office of the Ministry of Fisheries, David Sheluka, at that particular time stated that it was not a strange occurrence for marine organisms, particularly fish, to be washed onto the beach or alive into pools on the shore.
Clay soil. There where you see there's no one. Money. This is a plan. January, February is having 88 days.
All right, so that's the actual footage of some of the Walvis Bay residents that were picking up the fish that had washed ashore just by the coastline there. At the same time, of course, last month, the Namibian Dolphin Project at Walvis Bay, speaking with print media, came out to warn beach visitors and residents of the town not to collect fish that is washed ashore. And of course, according to a report here coming from the Namibian newspaper, they said this is a result of a sulfur bloom that is occurring at Walvis Bay, which causes low oxygen in the water, and as a result, the fish are washing ashore where there is oxygen. The paper said a sulfur bloom occurs when hydrogen sulfide erupts from decaying plants on the seafloor. And quoting Chelsea Kowalczyk, who is part of the project, she said the bloom can be identified by the color of the ocean water, the sulfur or rotten egg smell, and the schools of fish that wash ashore. And she said the fish may not be contaminated, but it is not advisable to consume them because it's not clear what killed them or caused them to wash ashore. Being quoted by the Namibian newspaper there, she said it's always hard to tell, but people can accidentally pick out a fish that is sick or has been lying out for a long time. Although the likelihood of getting sick is low, it's still risky because you can be sure what is wrong with the fish. That's what we're getting as far as that is concerned. Thank you so much for coming through. You continue to listen to the Early Morning Scoop right here on Eagle FM. My name is Kelvin, and welcome to the Early Morning Scoop.
But just because a judge finds a person guilty does not mean a person is guilty. Judges have found people guilty and they have won on appeal.
He feels bad because of his minister and his reverse parking is bad.
Okay, so the city of Windhoek wants to rename Bismarck Street.
No, I don't think it's okay. It should just remain the same.
Is it the only street that is named after a colonizer, though?
We are talking about young people, why they are not interested to vote.
I really don't think the government has us its interest because at least they should come up with awareness why we should vote and things like that.
This is the Early Morning Scoop on Eagle FM.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Good morning. You are listening to the Early Morning Scoop, and thank you so much for coming through. We are here until 7 o'clock. Now, lawyer Metcalf Bukes has now taken the forced vaccination fight right in the yard of Mediclinic. Employees of Mediclinic have been given until the 15th of February 2022, which is today, to apply for exemption from COVID-19 vaccines as the company now braces to enforce blanket vaccinations for all staff. But Mediclinic employee Sydney Mutaleni Haufiku has now employed the service of legal mind Richard Metcalf from Metcalf Buick's attorneys to stop the company right in its tracks. Haufiku has joined the Health Defense League, which is a composition of anti-vaccine individuals fighting against forced vaccines in the corporate world. The entity has vowed to pay all legal costs required to protect the health and constitutional rights of its members should litigation in the High Court of Namibia and or Labour Court occur. Eagle FM has seen a letter from Metcalf Buick's attorneys dated the 11th of February 2022 written to the Mediclinic Chief Executive Officer Mr. Kut Pretorius. According to the lawyers, they say, and we quote verbatim, "You have given a deadline date of the 15th of February 2022 to employees to apply for exemption. We attach here to pay Annexure B, a copy of the Nuremberg Code to which all countries subscribe. Please advise us why your company is of the opinion that it, as a medical entity, is above international law and can force its employees to be subjected to experimental vaccinations." Open quotes, close quotes. The lawyers have also advised Mediclinic that the Labour Ministry on the 2nd of February 2022 spoke out against the corporate forced vaccines. The ministry said that it, and we quote verbatim, advises employers to rather educate and encourage their employees on the importance of vaccination and to allow employees to make voluntary decisions. Open quotes, close quotes.
The Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation has received inquiries from the general public, employers and employees regarding whether the policy of mandatory vaccination may or should be implemented in business enterprises. The ministry has so far received 4 labor-related complaints that emerge from employers introducing mandatory vaccinations at their workplaces, whereas the Labour Commissioner received 10 labour cases. Of the cases referred to the Labour Commissioner, 1 was later withdrawn, 1 was resolved through conciliations, and the complainants has been reinstated, while arbitration proceedings are ongoing for the 8 cases. The 4 complaints were amicably resolved between employers and employees in line with the national COVID-19 guidelines. In light hereof, and in order to provide guidance to the public and both employers and employees, the ministry issues this press release. In this regard, it is to be noted that since April 2021, the Namibian government has been providing COVID-19 vaccinations at no cost nationwide and has been urging people, with some exceptions, to get vaccinated for their own good and for the health of all and for public good. At the same time, government has pronounced that vaccinations against COVID-19 is done on a voluntary basis. Government positions remains the same to date. Therefore, this ministry does not at this juncture advise employers to introduce mandatory vaccinations at workplaces, but advises on the labor aspects of addressing COVID-19 at the workplace that are consistent with the current government position. Section 39 and 40, subsection 1 of the Labour Act of 2007 requires an employer to provide a workplace that is without risk to the health of employees and or to third parties or the public. Some employers rely on these provisions as authorizing the introduction of mandatory vaccination at workplaces. However, such obligation must be implemented in a manner that balances the employer's statutory duty with other obligations under the Labour Act and with the rights and duties of employees. The ministry advises employers to rather educate and encourage their employees on the importance of vaccines and to allow employees to make voluntary decisions.
The lawyers have now accused Mediclinic of failing to engage their staff in order for them to make voluntary decisions on the vaccines. According to the lawyers, and we quote verbatim once again, but you have decided to make vaccination mandatory and flout the laws of Namibia. In the meantime, in his COVID-19 briefing at State House yesterday, Vice President Nangolo Mbumba urged people to get vaccinated. He said the government of the Republic of Namibia continues to observe with concern the public apprehension and hesitancy on the safety of COVID-19 vaccines. And he said, we quote verbatim once again, in this regard, as of February the 13th, 2022, the coverage of fully vaccinated population remains low at 20.6% of the country's target population, whereas the World Health Organization recommended population required to achieve national herd immunity is 60%. Take a listen to what Moye to say.
The status quo will be maintained and extended for a period of 30 days from February 16th to March 15th. With regards to the size of public gatherings, for the next dispensation, the size of public gatherings will be adjusted from 200 to 500 persons per gathering. The Minister of Health momentarily will elaborate on the new measures for this period.
In the meantime, current COVID-19 regulations are due to expire this particular Tuesday midnight on the 15th of February 2022. The status quo will be maintained and extended for a period of 30 days from the 16th of February tomorrow to the 15th of March 2022. The VP said, with regards to the size of public gatherings for the next dispensation, the size of public gatherings will be adjusted from 200 to 500 people. Take a listen to what Moye to say.
The country is now in the latent stage of the fourth wave as cases have declined. We are recording a low positivity rate across the country. This is a source of encouragement that the situation has been manageable in the past 3 weeks. I commend, therefore, the Namibian people who continue to comply with the public health regulations. The collective effort, vigilance, and discipline have enabled us to withstand and overcome the fourth wave, characterized by high transmission rate, albeit with moderate hospitalizations and a relative low rate of fatality.
We are dealing with yet another letter that has been written by Metcalf Bukes, attorneys, to Mediclinic. Mediclinic has given their staff until the 15th of this month, which is tomorrow, to apply for exemption from COVID-19. They want to do blanket COVID-19 vaccines. So they are saying if you have got a problem, apply. And it's yet another case of corporate forced COVID-19 vaccine. I just wanted to find out, sir, what do you think about the legal endeavor which is manifesting here of Mr. Bukes here and these people that are saying we are against corporate forced COVID-19 vaccine? Does that make sense?
Well, it infringes on people's right to choose, really. I mean, I just don't understand why so many corporate entities are missing the legal standing and the respect for human rights to make choices. The idea is to make people understand the benefit of the vaccine and persuade them that it's right to take a vaccine, not to enforce it legally. It is just wrong to do that because it negates on human rights. It presumes that people have got more mind of their own to be able to make an informed decision. It assumes that we deal with people as objects, not as human beings. You know? Now, technically, it's also not wrong because if it was a case that once you are vaccinated, you can no longer pass on the virus,
Right.
or if it was a case that once you're vaccinated, the virus can no longer touch you at all, or if it was the case that all the vaccines that are available on the market have passed phase 4 to be registered not as on an emergency basis, but to be registered like you register a penicillin or a Panado for use, then maybe that will be another avenue for discussion. But I just don't see it, and I am amazed that even countries such as Canada are now embroiled in a serious state of civil disruption simply because they infringed, and that is really the word I want to emphasize. They are infringing on people's right to make informed choices.
Right.
And that is the tenet of medical practice. I don't see this knee-jerk reaction of corporate clearly based on fear, for which they have got little or no information, that they are making, that they take up people's rights to make decisions. Secondly, I believe up to 1 million Namibians could already have been exposed to COVID-19.
Right.
And having been exposed naturally, you must have some form of defense. That is, it's just that we don't do research. We have huge research gaps in this country. And now people are jumping on making decisions that are affecting other people's life and right, and even psychologically. That's just not right. And I was just listening to somebody at State House saying that MTC is coming up with incentive. That could be considered as perverse incentive. Why are we not giving data to people who take up TB medicine or HIV treatment also? And we have a huge problem of people not taking their TB medicine here. We have problem of people not having their children still vaccinated against measles and other diseases. Why are we not giving them data?
Right.
Why are we banning people, whether staff or visitor, to institutions such as the hospital, for when they are not vaccinated? And if you have an emergency, let's say a car crash that like the one, and may their soul rest in place, like the one we had just 2 days ago between Okahanja and Oshivarongo.
Right.
If you have people there who are coming to the casualty, you don't have time to go and test their COVID state. They could be involved in a motor vehicle accident, but still having COVID. Are you going to ban them from entering your casualty? Or you only target the soft targets of people who work for you or visiting, etc.? It's just not right, Kevin. People must get it right that it's not right to compel people to take the vaccine. It just makes our case bad and not work. That's my view.
That's right. And of course, that was the Deputy Minister of Information Communication Technology. That's Emma Theophilus, who said MTC is giving these incentives for people to get vaccinated.
But I must indicate that vaccine hesitancy is still the driving force around our numbers. The fake information and disinformation around the vaccines continues to go around on all our social platforms, including WhatsApp groups, where sometimes government information cannot reach because some of these WhatsApp groups are close to only certain family members or groupings of friends. And that is why it's important that we invite the media as a stakeholder to really help us dispel the misinformation and disinformation and vaccines are concerned, because communities are continuously being bombarded with information even beyond our borders around the vaccines. So yes, government is considering avenues to increase vaccine uptake in addition to some of the measures taken. If you recall, MTC is having a vaccine drive where you register to get vaccinated, and once you get vaccinated, you get free data from MTC.
Between the 1st of January and the 2nd, the Labour Minister, Utoni Nyoma, came out to say that his ministry was advising employers to rather educate and encourage their employees on the importance of vaccination and to allow employees to make voluntary decisions.
The ministry advises employers to rather educate and encourage their employees on the importance of vaccines and to allow employees to make voluntary decisions.
Are companies listening to him?
That is the right thing to do. And I have to congratulate Minister Utoni for at least reading what the law is saying and realizing that it's not right to infringe on people's rights. People must be given a choice. They must exercise their human right to choose. And I always tell people, medicine is something else. Even if you are on your deathbed and let's say you are a Jehovah's Witness and you tell me, I do not receive blood, it would be wrong for me to impose blood on you. You rather die? As long as you understand that not getting blood may complicate your life to the point that it can take your life. If you understand and you're happy to live with that, that's fine. That's the way.
All right. The Vice President, in his briefing at State House, said he thanked Namibians for conducting themselves, especially now that we are coming out of the COVID-19 fourth wave. This emergence out of this fourth wave, is it as a result of behavioral change, or it's as a result of the science behind the functionality of the virus itself?
Well, maybe it's a combination of both, but I tend to think that this virus, it's here to stay with us. It will recede naturally or mostly by natural process. Well, maybe with a bit of a mask wearing here, but the majority of Namibians are not wearing masks. I've seen it over December. And we know that only about 20-something% of Namibians are vaccinated. But one element that I think we are not bringing out is that many Namibians have been exposed to this virus naturally. A lot of them have not gone for test. And the number of them actually must have some sort of immunity. That's really the point I wanted to come out clear.
Right.
So even reaching herd immunity, it may be the case that the highest percentage of contribution for us reaching herd immunity is actually caused by natural infection, which may not have been detected actually, not necessarily by a vaccine. I know it has to be a combination of two, but largely I believe that the vast majority of Namibians were exposed and infected by coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2, not being tested and not being included in the current statistic. That's my view.
That's right. Dr. Ofiku, thank you so much for the time that you gave us there. We do appreciate you there.
You're most welcome, sir.
That's right. That is Dr. Bernard Ofiku, the former health minister there, saying that he is against the corporate forced vaccination and at the same time very critical of the stance that has been adopted by some companies to induce people to get COVID-19 vaccines by giving them incentives such as MTC is doing, giving people data if they do get vaccinated. That was a point that was hammered on yesterday also by the Minister of Information Communication Technology, that's Emma Theophilus at State House. What are your thoughts about this? Give us a call.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
My name is Kelvin, and welcome to the Early Morning Scoop.
But just because a judge finds a person guilty does not mean a person is guilty. Judges have found people guilty and they have won on appeal.
He feels bad because of his minister and his reverse parking is bad.
Okay, so the city of Windhoek wants to rename Bismarck Street.
No, I don't think it's okay. It should just remain this.
Is it the only street that is named after a colonizer, though?
We are talking about young people, why they are not interested to vote.
I really don't think the government has its interest because at least they should come up with awareness why we should vote and things like that.
This is the Early Morning Scoop on Eagle FM.
Eagle FM, the eye.
All right, 2 minutes to go to 7 o'clock, the time right here on the station. Of course, my colleague Gwanda is now here in the studio to take us into the unpacking of the day. And of course, you can always come to our social media pages, especially our Facebook page, Eagle FM Namibia, and be part and parcel of our live stream there. And of course, we're getting information that the President of the Republic is now in Brussels, in Belgium. Of course, there is an African Union and European Union summit there. That's going to be taking a look at joint cooperation onto various areas of cooperation. And in our various conversations during this show, we're saying that the president was in Brest. He has now jetted into Brussels, and that's what he's getting there. Very interesting indeed. And of course, just a few seconds to go to 7 o'clock, hoping that you had an awesome Valentine's yesterday. And we saw that there were people that were donning the red and people buying the roses. And quite interested really by how social media also reacted.
And some people are throwing away flowers, but for $600.
For $600. I think this is what we're seeing this morning, Wanda, right? This morning, if you check out the, I'm sure the guys that collected beans are
they'll be busy. They'll be busy. All right, there's a short break coming up, Kelvin. All right, we'll be back after this. Stay tuned.
The Early Morning Scoop was proudly sponsored by the International University of Management, IUM, a Namibian university dedicated to its people's future, a hub of abundant opportunities.
This is Wanda, and you are listening to Unpacking the Day. We do this weekdays, Mondays to Fridays from 8 to 10. Join me on Eagle FM, The Eye.
All right, so that's the conversation there. We're just talking about Valentine's yesterday, Wanda. I saw the guys that are responsible for collecting the refuse.
Today,
right?
Yeah, they'll be busy collecting flowers to throw away.
600 Namibian
throw away. No, guys, if you don't have money to buy flowers, don't make fun of others.
I'm laughing because
yeah,
there's a meme. There's a joke that was circulating yesterday.
Yeah.
Where one was saying, if you are dating my cousins or my sisters, and you're thinking of sending them flowers,
yeah,
please, we want pap.
You want what?
We want pap.
Oh.
And somebody said,
yeah,
forgot onions too. Right.
You're cracking me early in the morning.
That's Valentine's, right?
You know what? When you buy flowers for someone who doesn't like you, they throw them away.
They do.
In the case that they already have someone, they can't take them home because then it will be an issue. So either they stay at the office, if such a person is in office, but if they don't have, they end up in the bin.
Well, I think for those that I see there are people that put money, dollar bills,
yeah,
$100, $200 bills on the flowers. I think that's more. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
On the lady, because at least she's left with something.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be romantic, though.
Yeah, no, that's right. Well,
There's
thank
no
you so
harm.
much.
All right, Kelvin.
That's right.
All right then.
What is your take? Let all of us sit around the table, discuss our differences, and if we have to agree to disagree,